For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite-level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated. More often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the E.T. Stand Podcast.
The Sharkies providing all of the emotions in one match, even if you don't want them. Welcome to the ET Stand, the Sharks fans podcast where we let our talking to the football. We're in all the usual places: YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you guys want us to be. If we aren't there, let us know and we'll try and get there. While listening, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps with everything we do. There's also a Discord channel where you and your fellow fans can chat all Sharks 24/7 and any other topics you feel like talking about. The link will be in the chat and we'll pop it in the description below. Also, don't forget about Super Chats. They're there, they help the channel, and will certainly get us to focus on whatever you want to talk about. After putting the mock on us and declaring that we can't lose from here while 16 points up, Boldo has been banned from tonight's episode. So you've got me as host, backing up from the debrief. We also see Williams returning, hopefully with less steam coming out of his ears. Have you calmed down, mate? And are you ready to add more insights to what we saw last weekend?
I was going to say, get to talk about the stages of grief. I think, I'm not sure, maybe I'm at acceptance now that we're terrible. So I'm a lot calmer. I was very calm in 2014. Maybe it's like that.
Fair enough, then. We also have Lats, who's been AWOL for a little while. I think he was out chasing an ultra rare addition to his paperclip collection. Does that complete the set, mate, or have you got more to go?
Mate, there'll always be one to chase. Look, mate, I listened to that first half on the way home from work the other day. I couldn't make the debrief. I was going to watch it on replay. It got too much for me. I had to listen to it, and I was cheering by the time I got home. I came home, turned it on, and I think I may have been the reason, not Boldo, for just watching it live in that second half. Mate, just typical Cronulla, typical Fitzy, just gutted. We should not have lost that game.
Fair enough. And I mean, who's probably more gutted is we've also got CK, who has been suspiciously quiet, but he's just disappeared on us. So maybe he's realised that he's on the ET Stand podcast and can't handle this Sharks chat once more time. Oh,
he might have had a sticky from work tonight. Realised he was live on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a
also
technical
joining
issue at
us.
all.
Yeah, also joining us is you, the listeners. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got a short but sweet show coming up tonight. That said, I'm host, so maybe we'll be able to stretch it out just a little bit for giggles.
No agenda. Usually there's the agenda on the side, but just free flowing tonight.
Well, do you want an agenda? We can put an agenda up. Hang on a sec. Look, here we go. Here we go.
Wild
Boom.
and loose, like the debrief. Oh, there we go. Okay.
There you
Good
go.
one.
Yeah.
Nice and quickly done. We'll pop in a few final thoughts over the Broncos match. Lats will do his socials. We'll preview the Storm game coming up, and CK gives us his league roundup. Now, if he comes back, he probably, like I said, probably won't. Scarred for life. He's gone.
Who's the fun fact with this week?
It's open for interpretation. So think of one. I might randomly draw one of your names out of a hat, or
Right.
maybe it's time for the audience to give us a fun fact. SJD started this fun fact thing by cranking out a few facts a couple of weeks ago, so maybe it's their turn again. Couple of comments have come through. We've got James Munro saying Peru played well, better drop him. We only reward mediocrity. 2.0 with a super chat, $7.99 super chat. Thank you very much, 2.0, you absolute legend. Just
Thanks,
as William Kennedy should be, Boldo has been dropped. If only Fitzy was as ruthless as the ET Stand board of directors. No incompetence here, 2.0. He had to go. We couldn't have that. Yeah, I don't know if William Kennedy gets dropped. I suppose we should be talking about that because of the super chat. But I don't think there's anyone to drop him for. I think we're kind of SOL, and Kennedy's just got to lift a little bit. Any other
Correct.
options there at fullback? Few
We
blanks
chatted
there.
about on Sunday in the debrief, and there was talk of if buts, maybe if Stone Street was fit, for example, but he's not. Ronaldo back there, but we don't have two quality wingers. What Vayela played reserve grade on the weekend, got sent off, but apparently he was injured anyway, and that's a reason maybe why he wasn't in the first grade side. We know Hirotti's injured. Who else could you put that back there? Iro potentially if he was fit, but he's also not fit. So there's no options. Atkinson maybe. That was mooted.
Atkinson's probably the best shout out. Taj Ford is a bit too green, I think. I think we've all sort of shouted down the Nico to fullback option. I don't think that's going to work. So yeah, Atkinson's probably the only option, and that solves two problems by not having Atkinson on the bench. Well, maybe that's the way to go. Paul comes in and says Peru makes a great debut, and he's the only one that's dropped. This is a jobs for the boys rugby league club. No accountability. So yeah, there's a few people upset about Peru being dropped. Stuart Campbell says my Suncorp attendance is 0% win rate. Did I say that pre-game? There's just mocks coming out of the woodwork. Boldo with we can't lose from here. Lat's going from watching it on delay to watching it live. We didn't all pick the Sharks as a loss. If we'd have done that, maybe the reverse mock might have been on.
Yeah, you blame me there. For Stuart, though, I did say if he's 0%, he's got to get there eventually. It is that duck has got to break. I think I'd been to 7, 8, 9. I can't remember. I'd have to calculate how many Suncorp losses I'd seen before the last 3 games. I think I've been to at Suncorp. I've seen Sharks wins, but I haven't been back there since 2013. So 2013, 2014. So yeah.
I don't think my brother's seen. He lives up there and hasn't seen a Gold Coast or a Suncorp win every time he's gone to a game. So he's the massive mock.
Well,
yeah.
Did he go the other day?
Right.
No, he knows better.
He knew we'd won our last 3 there, so he's like, better stay away.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, last weekend saw the Sharkies take on the Broncos at Suncorp, squandering a lead of up to 16 points at one stage. The boys got run down by a spirited team with the crowd behind them. However, you'd have to say we melted and didn't stand up to the pressure. CK, I've got an interesting one for you, buddy. I was watching the press conference and something stuck out at me. After the Dragons press conference, Fitzy said our first half was pretty good, pretty positive, even though we were down on the scoreboard. While after this game in the press conference, Fitzy said our first half against the Broncos was poor, even though the scoreboard reflected well with us. What indicators do you think he's looking at if the first half for the Dragons was poor and was good and we're behind on the scoreboard, and the first half of the Broncos was poor and we're in front on the scoreboard? What do you think he's looking at there? What kind of indicators, effort ball, what sort of things do you think he's trying to find that dominates our season there?
Yeah, you obviously sent me the message today to have a look, and I thought you must have been taking crazy pills and you're going the other way, and you'd listed it wrong. So I went back and watched it today, and I think it was what we talked about, or I even said last week, Band-Aids on gunshot wounds. He just said he could tell against the Broncos, even though the scoreboard we were up, we just looked flat, and there was a couple of different things going wrong that shouldn't be. And like I mentioned after the game when I spoke to a couple of people, like we walked all our tries in. Like the Broncos literally parted the seas in 3 out of those 4 first tries that went in. And so then defensively they were bad. So it made us look really, really good. But I know what he's talking about now, what he's looking for, those kind of things. In the Dragons game, yeah, we started the first 10 minutes well, and we obviously had a sin bin, and the Dragons got a bit lucky with some tries, but he must have known something was coming. But in that Broncos game, you could just tell they were a little bit flat. And again, I'm sure we'll go into it, but that's your job, Fitzy, is to fire them up. I know we've traveled all over the country and overseas and things like that, but I expected a bit of steel by year 3 of our defensive structures to be a little bit better. And he went into the discipline, the structures he put in place, and players just not doing it in effort areas. And you can see that the worst one was probably the obstruction or not obstruction, where they all just stopped, looked, threw up their hands and went, oh, hang on, they're improving the position and no one's going after the guy who's about to score under the post. So it's those little things that I think he was picking up on, that it wasn't the fact that we were up on the scoreboard. It was more like, geez, if a tide comes, we're going to get drowned, and drowned we did.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair shout out. Do you want to add to that, Williams?
Yes. So the effort, I suppose he spoke in the press conference about the discipline, not, I suppose, penalty discipline, but discipline with holding your line, discipline with errors, discipline with effort plays. The KPIs, maybe I was looking at just purely speculating, was no stats behind this, but whether it was set distance, defensive set distance, play the ball speed, post-contact meters, things like missed tackles, ineffective tackles, things like that. So it's clear, yeah, or as you speculated, Franco, in our little group chat today, whether he's actually dodging the question and there's maybe a red herring he's thrown out there to kind of maybe deflect or protect. Funnily enough, what Kelly was saying with regards to the entire team stopping with that Hines obstruction, no obstruction thing was, yes, that was definitely the standout. And we are the laughing stock of the NRL. I think it was that something like that was going to happen eventually, whether it was to a lesser club like us or the Tigers, or I'd say maybe the Raiders or the Warriors. But the Raiders and the Warriors are top four, so that's not going to happen to them this year. So we're the four guys. Listening to Vossi and Brandy yesterday morning, and they were saying that Vossi was actually saying that he was embarrassed for the NRL. He was kind of blaming us initially. Then he went, no, actually, this is a wider issue that players have been able to get away with that stopping and soccer style hands up, and the referee usually 99.9% of the time overturns it, even if that's not the decision. And that's I suppose we fell victim to that, but it was him or a texter that actually said it was the Mitchell Moses effect, which I did kind of agree. He said this is a bad look, that NRL was never like, or rugby league was play the whistle no matter what. And we've turned our game into a bunch of guys that will, I suppose, put their hands up at a moment's notice or stay down at the most inconsequential, ineffective contact in order to get their team that benefit. And it's a blight on the game. So Vossi did, I think they called their pull your socks up segment, and initially called it the Cronulla Sharks. And then he said, no, actually the wider NRL's got something to play with this. And this unfortunately has come to a head. And I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. But hopefully our team, who can only control their actions, pull their bloody socks up and don't let that happen again.
Can I just say on that ruling, it was changed this year for players playing for the obstruction. So they reviewed it in the off season with apparently the great minds of, Stewart, Bennett, Bellamy, all those kind of guys got together, powwow, and said, right, the players for the Moses who were playing for obstructions. But I still reckon if Hines doesn't throw his hands up, Nickera was just as obstructed as he was. And if Hines doesn't throw his hands up and just hits the deck, we probably get the call. But the way that the whole team carried on and stopped and didn't make a bit of an effort play, the referee went, well, mate, you didn't even try. Like, I reckon if you just, because as we know, or some of us know, in basketball, if you clip feet, it's a foul on that player. That's just unfortunate. It's not that you fell over. The defensive player clipped your feet. That was the reason you fell over. It's a foul. And the same would have happened. Hines just hit the deck and stayed down and sort of reached out. They probably would have given the call back to us. But the way we carried on and just stopped playing was just, it was
gone.
I looked at it in slow motion. It looked like Hines actually had his foot trodden on.
Yeah.
That's an obstruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he can't get across because his foot's being stood on, how is that not an obstruction?
And the fact that he's
ridiculous.
Just
the fact that we seem to have been, we seem to be this team over the last month or so that is on the wrong end of all the 50-50 calls. And I don't know, it's like that position of weakness that the lower teams have in the bottom 8. Like you see it with the Tigers. I saw it with the Tigers against Canberra the other day. We're becoming that weaker team again that we were so many years ago, after building us up to being a strong top 4 sort of pushing side. And now we're on the wrong end of all these calls because we're scapegoats. It's ridiculous.
And as we know, it's very hard to turn that momentum around from the ref's perspective. Okay, where are we? Where to now? This is brought to you by Morgan's Cronulla, your local stockbroking services who help you ask all the questions you should be asking as you think about your investments. Lats, were there any positives at all in this game? What do we take out of it? Any positives?
Oh, mate, the first half was awesome. Like, our attack was lit up again. We were making some great breaks, whether that be poor Broncos defense or not. We found it out, and Nickera was like quite a bit responsible for that. He was causing a nightmare for Ezra Mam. I thought Toby had a great game. I thought he was running really hard and really trying to, inspire the forwards to go forward. Brayley had a blinder in that first half. He should be playing Origin. Mate, there's definitely positives there, but just you can't let a lead like that slip. That's unforgivable. The Broncos have been up and down, and we should have buried them. We should have put 30 on them.
Fair enough.
In that
Broncos were horrible.
Broncos were pretty bad. CK, have we gone backwards? Players like Ramian and Wilton were spoken about in Origin circles, but now I probably wouldn't be upset if we swapped them out for Iro and Burns respectively. Brayley, Latz mentioned, should be playing Origin, was in Origin circles, not so much anymore. Talakai got a couple of sneaky games, not even spoken about. Are we going backwards as a team? Is that what's happening here?
If you forget the creator's favourite player in Will Kennedy, it was the top of the Daily M's at one stage, which was just an absolutely false ladder. And I messaged you guys and said, like Kennedy's on fire in the first 40 minutes, was killing it. Was making his normal breaks, backing up, scoring tries. And then, the rest of the team just fell at absolute heat. There was a couple of tackles there he just didn't finish off, which could have saved tries. There was Trindle coming out and throwing up at the start of the second half, whether it was, I don't know, something he ate or something he drank too much, just one of those sort of vomits he had. But then he had some horrible errors to Ronaldo not catching the ball with no one around him, with no pressure. It was again, and I've talked about it, and I feel like we're going round and round in circles again. We've probably gone backwards, but at the same time, it's just a 15 to 20 minute period we switch off where we just absolutely capitulate, let the other team the game, and the momentum's gone and we can't strangle it back. So I don't know. I thought our attack, like Latz said, was a lot better. I thought Brayley was killing it. We absolutely owned that 10-minute period where we had a player down and Brayley scored a try himself. That should have given us confidence to kick on from there. I thought the game, when Brayley dived over and the 10-minute period was finished, I thought we've got this game. This is done. There's 30 minutes to go, but the Broncos aren't coming back from this. They look shell-shocked. So I don't think we're regressing, but I don't think we're learning from our dumb mistakes or our defensive mistakes. There's been no growth in that area. So, yeah, it's a slide in defensive mindset, but backwards, I don't know yet. It's such a topsy-turvy league, which we'll go into later, but yeah, it's ugh.
You're saying when I asked for a smarter team last week, we should be getting a smarter team.
Correct. Yeah. And I did say that last week in last week's show. I don't know which team out of the Sharks is going to turn up and which team out of the Broncos is going to turn up. And we got a bit of both. It was just, we got the Broncos who were terrible and then turned it on. And we had the Sharks who turned it on and then turned it off. It was just
all four.
It was so bad. Teams that should be making up the numbers in the 8th this season, I think.
Yeah, this is a fair point. Fair call. You mentioned Brayley scooting over for a try. I thought Brayley had a fantastic game. Obviously, especially for the first 60 odd minutes. I do feel a little bit dirty at him though. He could have given that ball to Hohepa and gifted him a meat pie. That would have been Hohepa's first try in first grade. He hasn't had an appearance since 2023. And Brayley, selfish little bugger, just took it over the line himself. Hey,
I would have also rounded out my multi too, mate, but we won't go into that.
But that was, I believe, the very first time that Brayley has scored from dummy half. I can't remember him. Obviously, he had one against the Dragons denied, but we've been crying out for it since that semi-final against the Raiders in 2020 when he had a blinder and then went off injured, which I suppose allowed him to continue his run of consecutive matches. But he's in career best form, and I don't even count the last 20 minutes as being poor by him. There was nothing he could do with the way the team fell apart around him. He is on fire, and it was good to see him go from dummy half. Kelly nailed it. We absolutely destroyed that 10-minute period when we were down by a man, and then just pooed the bed.
It was his first try of the season, so he got off the nude run, but spoiler alert, it might have got However another start this week, but it didn't seem like
Absolutely. Now, CK touched on it there. We were absolutely dying it up until that point, and then for a 10-15 minute period, we just fell in a heap. That 10-15 minute period happened to coincide with a certain individual coming off the bench. It's been spoken about ad nauseum. We're going to have to touch on it. There's been people talking about it in the comments. Young Atkinson. look, I think I've said it before in the past. I don't blame him. It's not his fault. He just doesn't have a role when he comes on. And at this point in time, he came on for 8 minutes, 0 hit-ups, couple of passes. He's just not providing anything to the team. And in that scenario, for 8 minutes, I don't know who needs an 8-minute breather, but just rotate the bench a little bit differently and leave him sitting on the bench and don't bring him on at all. Just leave him there for emergency if you have to have him on the bench. Otherwise, let's get him out of there, bring someone else who has some kind of impact or a different style of utility, right? I think, look, the Atkinson chat has been done to death. We touched on a little bit earlier today. Maybe moving him to fullback is an option. It does solve potentially 2 problems with one bird with one stone if you're worried about Kennedy at fullback. But it is a dilemma. I'm sure we're going to hear about it later on with Latz's socials. There is a concerning number of fans who are sick to death of seeing Atkinson on the bench. What do you reckon, CK? Are we sick of talking about it? But there's a reason we're talking about it, right?
We're already up to 20 minutes, and how long we normally go for? No, we can't go into it an hour about. It just baffles me as, like you said, it's not. We've never hated on the Heartbreak Kid. It's got nothing to do with him as a player. It's got nothing to do with him as his selection. It's his role when he hits the field. He's not coming out and playing a 9. He's not coming out and playing a roaming 13 or 6 as an extra ball player and attacker where you think, oh, Atkinson's on the field, we better keep on our toes. He's not providing anything. Like you said, he gave 8 minutes of God knows what, because he's not taking hit up. So that goes out the window. And we're flushed with guys like Brayley, McGuinness, Adam Fanua-Blake, probably even Calhoun in that mix. And then the guy on debut could all play 80 minutes. Atkinson has no reason to come onto that field for any of those guys that have a breather. You can rotate Toby and who else? And Calhoun, and that's about it. The rest of the guys will happily play 80 minutes for us. Fanua-Blake doesn't want to come off the field. He hates coming off the field. He'll easily play 80 minutes if he has to. There's other props out there doing it. Payne Haas was backing up from a State of Origin game playing on one leg, and the only reason he left the field was to go get it strapped again and come back out and play another monster game. Like, that just crushes someone like AFB who's fully fit, up on the scoreboard and wants to play a long minute. So I just don't understand what he's providing out there. It's not a utility role. It's not a replacement at 9. It's just, I don't know. I will give a shout out, though, the guy who probably took his spot in Talakai in the centres, who was smashing Katoni Staggs all game long. Staggs didn't make a break on him. He was wrapping him up. He was killing him. But then we lost that punch. And we've talked about this for the whole time I've been doing this show. Our strength is in having 4 forwards on the bench and rotating them through. Latz touched on it before. I thought that was Toby's best game in a long, long time, many years. He was bowling over everyone, absolutely everyone. And it led to a try where he bowled over Ezra Mann, and Hines went, you know what, you're next man up. And that's where we went putting Nakora through a gap. Like, it was just, Toby should have played 25, 30 minutes. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's killing the whole fans, and I'm sure Latz will go into it. And I said to you guys, I put up a post just about the team list today, and it absolutely lit up on the socials, and people just like ready to throw Fitzy out the coaching box, because it doesn't make sense. Unless Atkinson's going to go to Melbourne and be the hero again and play the 6, seriously, sit him down. It's not needed.
The only sense I can make of his continued selection is that Fitzy's only keeping him there in case we make it to Golden Point, because he knows everyone else is shit at kicking field goals. It's the only reason.
You can make it Golden Point. You can sit him down for the whole 80 minutes and just wait for Golden Point, or wait for the last 3 minutes and take a forward.
Play for Golden Point.
It's just, yeah. We all have love for Atkinson, all the things he did last season to what he's done before. He possibly could play fullback, because I've seen him and play fullback before he got a start in first grade, but it's not working. It's the biggest blight on our team. You could have Billy Burns off the reserves playing out there and have Atkinson at 18 in case something goes wrong. But yeah.
So I've got the stats. Atkinson has missed 2 games. So it was the Eels game at Magic Round, the Dragons game 2 weeks ago, where he was dropped off to 18th man and we played 4 forwards on the bench. What was different about those matches? I don't know, because the Dragons were busted and the Eels weren't exactly setting the world on fire, except for Moses being back in that match, where we played plenty of other bigger forward packs and we haven't gone with 4 forwards on the bench. So I'm sure there's a rhyme or reason somewhere, Fitzy, but we can't see it.
It's made worse by the fact that he's leaving us to go to the Dragons next season as well, right? So it's not as though we're giving him minutes to get experience on the field and amongst the boys, so that, you know, in a scenario he could be a long-term lock or a long-term half, whatever, in seasons to come. He's just filling up a spot in the roster. There's no rhyme or reason to give him experience over someone like Hohepa, who is signed to be at the Sharks next season, or you know, heck, even Hohepa's brother, Nephi, right? Give him some time on the bench. Yeah, it's a disaster that he's there and has been gifted so many games when no one can see why. But I think that's it. I think we've done Atkinson now. We can move on. We can move on from Atkinson, I think.
I will say another look into another team, the Bulldogs, where they got the problem now where they got two halves. They just bought, obviously, Lockie Galvin, and they got somehow Kurt Mann, who's playing Origin and playing 14. So they got two utilities on the bench. But they don't come on and just play a role for 10 minutes and not touch the ball. Like, Atkinson's not coming on and seeing the ball. That's the difference. He's not coming out there and going in the middle. He's not taking tough hit-ups. He's not setting up plays. He just comes on to give a forward a breather and be an extra man out there. And it's just crazy town.
Yeah, I don't think he doesn't add any impact. He doesn't add, you know, any starch. It's just halts our momentum, I think. So we are all in agreement there, I believe, as would many fans listening. Speaking of fans listening, there's a whole slew of comments. Let's try and hit a few of these up before we get too far behind. Richard White says he'd like to see Nico and Trindle switch positions. He thinks they may work better. Williams, do you subscribe to the 6 and 7 means anything, or is it just a number on the back?
They basically play one side of the field. One plays on Hines on the right, Trindle on the left. The only issue I see is when one dominant player or one player needs to take the game by the scruff of the neck or the balls, whichever way you look at it. There still seems to be that uncertainties which player that will be, and that's the controversy. The number on the back doesn't mean anything, but I think was it Ricky used to call it the halfback owns the result. Neither of them are owning the result at the moment. Even though Trindle, and actually I'd say Hines as well in the first half looked good, but when it mattered most in the second half and the big plays were required, i.e. not kicking out on the full or keeping it in goal or not dropping the ball in key positions, neither of them stepped up.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it's also worth mentioning. And look, Nico is well loved by fans of the club. There's a lot for him, but Nico is also getting lambasted for things that are probably not his fault. So I hope this doesn't come out as a bit of a Nico bash, but it goes back to the dumb football team scenario in my mind. Katoa gets blamed for the absolute brain fart that got him sin-binned, and rightly so. However, ultimately, he should have never been in that position. There was 12 seconds to go on the clock, and Nico puts in what I can only describe as a middling chip kick for Katoa to chase through on. Surely you either drill that over the sideline, or if not, hoof it high into the air as a Hail Mary. Again, not excusing the dumb play from Katoa. However, I just feel it kind of takes away the dumb play from Nico as well, right? He should have managed those last 10 seconds better. Like, what was the outcome there that he was trying to get? The chip kick was too long. There was someone there in that position. Again, Katoa was in the wrong. Not excusing that, but it was just a dumb play, right? Kick it over the sideline, everyone walks off. We've got a full complement of players coming into the second half, right? It's just one of those things where you got to be aware of what's on the clock. I don't think we were blowing away the Broncos so significantly that we thought we could score every set of 6.
Yeah,
anyway.
I thought Nico was running a lot more, was doing a lot better, was more of a threat. There's probably a running 6 instead of playing 7. On that point, you got to remember the play before, Reynolds tried something ridiculous and kicked short to the other side, and it caused another set of 6 to go over that way. So it was a bit of a frantic. But Katoa, mate, seriously, like Ezra Mann's not going 80 metres against us. There's no reason to stick your hand out. There's 1,000 cameras. You're right next to the sideline and right next to the touch judge. No one's missing that. And it's going to be nothing but in. Like, it had no reason to do it. Even if you just tackled him, he would have got sin bin. He just stuck his hand out. Like, God, like just it pretty much that highlight that just right there shows that you might as well just show that for the game and the result at the end, and that was it. Because like I said, we did really well in what he was missing, but it just sucked the energy out of us because we had to defend for 10 minutes for 12 men for no reason with 6 seconds left on the clock. Like,
Matt Axiak says, we are horrible at closing out games in the Fitzy era, going all the way back to the Cowboys and Roosters semi-finals, Warriors twice at home, Raiders this season, and worst of all on Sunday against the Broncos. Yeah, can't argue with that, Matt. I think you certainly get a few people beating that same drum.
That's all my mind.
2.0s.
Those semi-finals all the time is just not finishing off games.
Which has got to be something in the back of your mind as well, right, as a player. The press is certainly going to start bringing that up a bit more often too, I reckon, as we get to the point end of the season. 2.0 says he's heading to Melbourne. He'll take his boots. Enjoy Melbourne, buddy. Hopefully we get the win. SJD says he'd swap Talakai with Vela. Talakai to start at lock, Cam to prop, bench, Puru, Toby, Ueli, and Colhoun. It's not too bad, SJD. You're the coach, aren't you? Do it. Get it done.
Just as long as Cam doesn't drop it on the 4th tackle of the first set, please.
I'm just not sure if anyone's got a chance to have a check, but I caught another one of our podcast guys in Rugby League Outlaws and Dan saying that Vela may be out injured at the moment. So, but because the club doesn't put out much in regards to our reserve grade, because of that crossover with Newtown, so it's a bit hard to see what's going on there. But I thought Talakai was really good in his position, but yeah, he just then lost. We sort of strengthened a spot to weaken another spot again. So
the only thing I was to say about Talakai was when he was hitting guys front on and cutting the ball up, he was fine. He did get found out by Stags a few times. I mean, Stags is obviously very good and shows up most defensive centres, but I think Talakai is a bit too big to play in the centres these days. And you're right, what we lose there. If we had Vela fit, you'd play him. I think he's not fit, and he got sent off in reserve grade on the weekend as well.
So I don't want to upset Paul, a regular listener who hates the talk of Talakai in the centres. But if you look, I'm going to do it anyway. If you look at Talakai in the centres, is he any worse than Ramian? I don't think so.
No, I think Ramian has fallen off a cliff. So yeah, I think more so what Kelly was saying of weakening at one area to strengthen another. We do lose a lot. We lacked that punch in the second half when we needed it. Our sets were making only 25 metres. Everyone was gassed. And it wasn't that warm by Brisbane standards either. It was 19 degrees. So it was not much warmer than Sydney.
I'm grabbing a Cronulla crab. So
bloody Ramian crab. Dev Era says, nothing is Fitzy's fault. He laid the perfect plan to win, and in the second half, the players decided not to play. Players have to take responsibility for a loss like that.
It's a reasonable point. My big take, I think, out of all of it, and I think I maybe mentioned it quickly in passing the other day, was leadership. I'm not blaming McInnes here, but we just don't. Who was it? Someone said in the Discord channel, might have been Hugh Cox, do we lose it if we had Gallen, Lewis, Fafita, Ennis, Maloney? Probably not. Obviously, it was a luxury back then when we had those players, but I just don't think we have anyone standing up right now and leading the way when it's needed most.
Yeah, I guess Finucane was supposed to be that hard head as well, right?
And he left start last year when he was supposed to be here till the end of this year. So there goes that succession plan, I suppose.
I think that was a great comment. We sort of touched on it when we obviously had a chat to those coaching staff in Vegas and the plan they lay out and the result against Penrith and the closed sheds afterwards, because the plan absolutely didn't stand up to what the coaching staff laid out there. And, and Franko's first question to me, and that's what I read between the lines, what Fitzy was saying was he's put out defensive structures and game plans, and the players in the last 25 minutes just move away from that. And it's just, it's again that 15 minute, the 20 minutes, we just nothing happens. All the calls go against us. The runs doesn't happen, and I don't know. They revert back to something bizarre. Where it's the Cronulla hoodoo, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't have the starch to stick through that and then get back to the processes and get out the other side. And that's why we were talking about in the debrief the other day. I was looking forward to, even though we gave up I can't remember what crap error it was, but I thought, okay, here we go. We hold them out here. It was not long after we'd come back to 13 on 13. Okay, we had decent defense in the first half. Let's do it again. And then get back downfield. And we gave up a weak try. And then we was it the Ronaldo drop that happened? Then it was the Trindle kick out in the full. And then our defense was weak again. I think that was the one where we just fell off Reynolds. Was it the third try from then the first? I don't know. That one that Reynolds just managed to weasel his way out and throw a Hail Mary into the corner, and everyone just stood and watched. That typified the entire second half performance, which is bizarre because you're right. It's a 10, 15, 20-minute fade out, and then by then the game's gone, and it's attitudinal. And I don't know how Fitz fixes that because we do say, it's Fitz's bag, but it's more than that. It's this team. That's how do you
and
fix
that's
it?
what I find hard. We touched on this before, the Nico bashing that comes out. Like he's got to put in a crossfield winning kick with a minute left and hope that someone catches it and scores a try and we tie the game up. The game's gone at that stage. Like we're trying to hope, like we're trying to have a go to try and tie the game up. But we were up 16 twice. Like we shouldn't be in that position at all.
Yeah.
Stuart Campbell says Broncos' attack was clunky in the first half. If they were on it, it could have been 50 points. Our defense needs a lot of work. Yeah, our defense has been pretty weak, pretty poor the last month and a bit, I'd say. Uncharacteristically, Nickera, who's generally rock solid. I think he's been leaking a fair few. I mean, that whole edge has been a bit leaky. So work needs to be done. Where it starts, I'm not sure, but it's against Melbourne, so they're going to target that edge after doing a bit of video. So hopefully it starts now. 2.0 says we ended up losing to a bunch of cripples. Walsh on one leg, Haas on one leg. Reynolds breaks his hip getting out of bed in the morning. It was embarrassing. What 2.0 doesn't even mention was Hunt didn't even play. So yeah, it was not great. Chris Glasser says, other than CK, you guys must be pulling your hair out. No Origin players and no idea. Stop the Hines love in Fitzy. Hines to lock and bring AFB off the bench after the first 20 minutes.
Kelly still has beard hair to pull out. Kelly's doing these ones.
What our listeners might not know is
sorry.
Is CK actually has
trying to give you a compliment, mate. Jeez.
He's got a very fast follicle growth. He has a full head of hair come Friday morning, and then after a weekend of Sharks games, it's all gone. He just rips it out. So yeah,
I think it falls out every Tuesday. Also, Franco, after the team list announcement, it grows within 3 days.
I think Chris, you're a Warriors fan from memory, right, mate? So you've got a bit of AFB inside knowledge.
He's a big doggies.
A doggies fan. Well then, okay. Well, I'll put less credence into your AFB off the bench comment then.
Bucks hates the show, but loves our show. So, Chris, but yeah,
very good.
Yeah.
Boldo says he might finally stop saying, surely we can't lose from here because they have proven we can lose from any position. Someone put a pin in that. I want that quoted.
Put him in the draw. Comment of the night.
Should we run a vote? You got to run a vote. Surely be done to nil. You didn't need that performance of the weekend to know that Cronulla could lose from anywhere. We've given up 22-0 lead. 22-0 against Storm back in the day. That game against the Warriors a couple of years ago, that was horror. We didn't need to learn that one again.
Just boys, just speaking of best comment, we need to let Stuart Campbell know that he actually won best comment last week's show for saying who won the best comment because Boldo forgot about it again. And Stuart Campbell's gone into the hat. His name's gone into the hat, and he'll be in the draw for the displayware.
Very good. Excellent. SJD says, Boldo, we can lose from anywhere and don't call me Shirley. Very nice, SJD. Paul agrees. He says then in the second half, Nickera missed 5 tackles, including 2 on the 35-year-old Adam Reynolds. Yeah, that's what we were saying, mate. It wasn't pretty, was it?
Yeah, I saw a lot of comments in regards to Nickera missing a lot of crucial tackles in those stages of that tidal wave of momentum. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on there because he had a whale of a game to start with, and then just I don't know, like the rest of the team fell apart. So,
Agreed. Benjamin Turner says, what's the go with the bunker? Only showing one replay of the Will Kennedy challenge, but with the
100%.
Broncos challenge, they seem to look at every replay for 5 times and try and find something. I think you touched on that, Williams, on the debrief, didn't you? Do you want to recap that one for us?
Saw it live. Ezra Mam's hand in the other side knocked the ball out clearly. They had one look at it and they saw what they wanted to see and go, clearly it's a loose carry on. Decision made unsuccessful. It's like, hang on. Yeah, well, I'm sure that they've got an edict to make it as fast as possible, but that one deserved a second look from a different angle because it would have shown a different story.
well, not really, because they spent about 5 minutes at the end of the half looking at the kick which would have just put the Broncos in the 4-meter line.
That's the flip side, yeah. So I'm sure that their edict is make it as fast as possible, except for when you need to give the old penny Broncos leg up. And that one too, I thought that was pretty clear cut. There was a blade of grass. Sure, it was close, but it was a blade of grass. Within one replay, you could see both times that the ball was kept in by Kennedy. Instead, we looked at it over and over and I thought both of them were terrible challenges at that time of the game for both us and for them. It wasn't. You had more to lose if you got it wrong. But anyway, but that was another one. We can't blame the referee, but we got robbed there.
How do they let Ezra Man get away with anything?
Yeah. Yeah.
Surely no reputation referees. Surely.
Yeah.
Dean 180 says, it's also weird to feel sad after a loss, even for a few days when it's really just a game. Always do the boys feel the same after as the fans after a loss?
It changes my wardrobe, I can tell you that much. There's no Sharks. Especially when I was giving out a bit of curry in the first half and then heard back from it. But yeah, it takes a couple of days to settle down, but you realise life's a little bit more than football. So yeah, you'd like to win, but you also got to realise we're not going to go undefeated all season. So it is what it is. I'd rather be us than, I don't know, the Warriors losing to a reserve grade Panthers team, but we already lost to a reserve grade Roosters team. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's much more life than football, but I'm sure the players that they would be hurting, to quote good old Ricky Stewart there, in amongst all his 67 texters that he's received. But I think they'd bounce back. They're professionals. They need to get a result the next week. Hopefully they're not stewing it and just fix it.
Yeah, they'll probably be a bit hurting through video session, but other than that, move on. Losing Wilton was the primary difference in the end, SJD reckons.
Well, it wouldn't have been so bad if we had a Billy Burns on the bench instead of Daniel Atkinson, that's for sure.
100%.
Touche.
But that's where Puru should have just slotted straight in and played the rest of the game. He should have just slotted.
Yeah,
exactly.
Role.
And that's what he did in the trial against the Raiders, had a blinder. And the Raiders had a full strength side.
Out and Atkinson and Colquhoun are playing on the left. Like, he should have slotted straight in that role, and that was it. Stay on the field, mate. That's your debut. You're playing the next 60 minutes.
Colquhoun's not a bad option there in the back row. He has played back row. He started in the back row spot for when Wilton has been out injured last season. So it's not an uncommon spot for him to play. He should have done a fine job, whether it's just, defending with different people inside and outside you there, mix things up. I don't know. But I didn't think he was the problem. Maybe missing Wilton was a bit more of an impact than we're giving credit for, but yeah, I think Colquhoun did an all right job there. Didn't seem to
Wilton
be.
was making some massive breaks in attack on that left side as well. Both our second rowers were carving it up in attack in that first half. Whether that got starved a bit in the second half, having Jesse there, but Jesse can do a job there. He knows the role.
Yeah, very much so. Then we've got Richard White here. He says, the game versus the Broncos showed why we cannot afford Atkinson on the bench. With Teague injured, we looked tired in the last 15 minutes. So, yeah, we did. We definitely said we looked a bit tired. whether the Wilton injury was what tipped us over the edge, or whether, man down in the sin bin for 10 minutes. Ultimately, though, I think we should have been able to keep that fitness and intensity up for the rest of that game, especially with the momentum behind us and the scoreboard on our side. SJD says, Lats, we had a golden point against the Tigers and Atkinson wasn't even used.
That's where it was highlighted that we need to keep him on the bench.
Paul calls out that our right side edge defence is Hines, Nikro, Ramian and Katoa being atrocious. All experienced first graders and all should know better. And they've been together for a couple of years now as well, right? So whatever defensive structures Fitzy's got in place, they should know it. And if he's tweaking it, it's only a tweak. It's not a blow it up and start again scenario. So yeah, they should definitely be better than what they are.
I was thinking on that. Franko had his rant the other week about, Fitzy saying it's a simple game. So who are you supposed to tackle? It's the guy with the football, right? Mm-hmm. So Reece Walsh had the football and Hines took the decoy player and let Walsh go straight through a hole. Like, it was just, they're the simple things they're missing out on. Is you're tackling the decoy before he's even got the ball. He was the decoy and Walsh just went straight through it. So just, the guy with Reece Walsh we all know he's a danger player. Just go after him. So even like you said before, Reynolds is slipping through tackles left, right, and centre. Like, the guy's got the football, and then there are two attacking players, and we don't go after them. Just weird defensive decisions we made as usual.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. James Munro reckons post Dolphins games we will be out of the 8.
Be cool.
Possible.
Be cool.
Possible.
The Roosters had one more try in them, and if it's the score, we actually would have fallen below the Roosters to 7th.
Remember all you guys mocking me for saying the Roosters are going to make the 8?
Yes.
I do recall that.
I think SJD was giving it to me pretty hard too on that.
All right. Paul says Vela and Gabriel both named for the Jets this week. P.S. Siffer played well and Ramian's been a passenger for 2 months. Can't argue with the Ramian comment there. That's he's certainly not been his usual self.
Obviously, no suspension for Vela after his send-off. I'm not sure what the send-off was for, but obviously he's back a week later.
Yep.
And then did I miss a comment from Dev Era? No, maybe that's the one we count. We spoke about when he put the people in various positions. So we've got, where is it? Baldo saying, are we sure Dev Era isn't Coach Fitzy after that comment? And then SJD says Dev Era is his alternate account. All right. Here we go. 2.0 says, honest question, lads. If we can't find our way this season, do a couple of players get a tap on the shoulder? Ramian, Kennedy especially. You're giving a bit of a nod there, CK. What's your take on that one?
Yeah, you touched on it before. The squad's been together a long time and we just seem to be treading water in the same direction and going nowhere. So I think it is time to shake it up a little bit, because the problem is, though, most of those guys are contracted by 2026. So I'm sure we'll have to review another contract video towards the end, but we're kind of stuck with this squad, and old Franko's call out on the Hines contract may come to fruition here.
There's no such thing as contracts now. Just get Lucky Galvin's manager to.
There's plenty of broken quite.
Speaking of potential alter egos, there's Jason Doctor Who appears to be a first-time watcher. I'm not sure who you are, but talking about myself and my lack of skin tone. And then Baldo within a second going, how good's this guy? What a legend. It's like, well, is that just Baldo off multiple accounts commenting? I'm
probably
sure
a Baldo multiple account.
Out of the night off and he can't help himself.
Yeah.
Get out of here, Baldo. You're not welcome.
Doesn't trust us with his baby.
Look, yeah, I think from a Sharks perspective, we know we're a little bit weak when it comes to terminating contracts or pushing people out. Hasn't been done at the Sharks for a very long time. Last time I think something like that happened was Ricky Stewart putting was it our assistant coach Hannah down to play for the Gorillas or something like that? Was that? Yep, get out of here. We don't want you. If you want to stick around, you can play for the Gorillas.
There's a long
Well, but I mean, through extenuating circumstances, sure, there's plenty. But from just a pure form perspective of us going, yeah, we don't think you're performing the way we want. You can't talk about Hunt last year because that was a mutual decision.
There was
I
a
think
clean out when he came in. He said to Sharon Woods, Sean Johnson, and a
they
number
were
of
all
others.
off contract.
They were off contract, but and not renewed. But I think that
Yeah.
some of them had negotiations, change of coach, and then Fitzy said, "See you later." But you're right, there has been, and it's very difficult. I think it shows the position the club's in. You got to pay out a contract if you move them on. You're right. Josh Hannay definitely comes to mind with the Gorillas, and then moving on to wherever he went, Super League, I think. But yeah, it hasn't happened much. Probably for good reason, given that we don't want to be like the Bulldogs were a few years ago, where a huge percentage of their cap they're paying for players that weren't playing for them. Same as the Tigers and the like. So difficult spot though.
I think there would be, just to answer 2.0's question, I think there's probably a few players that maybe deserve a tap on the shoulder if they continue the way they're going. But are we in a position where we can do so? That's a different question, right? Our cap is pretty tight at the moment. I mentioned earlier, and it's a bit of a shock to say, considering everyone was saying we missed Wilton in the second half and he had such a blinder in the first half. But, if the cap is so tight, moving Wilton on and putting Burns in there frees up a bit of cap, and we don't think we're losing too much with Burns, at least not on his showing the few games he played this year. It's certainly something worth thinking of, but I don't think the Sharks are in a position to move on that or act in that scenario. So we'll probably be seeing the same group run around again next year unless someone decides that they can go somewhere else for more money and want out themselves.
Franko, say it's Nico that gets a tap on the shoulder. Mentally, can he handle that? Like, we saw how adversity sort of cruelled him in Origin, and that sort of fall from grace he had after that, and it happened twice. Is he too mentally fragile to deal with like that, or do we need to take another approach with Nico?
I think it's an interesting comment, mate. I don't know about the mental aspect of it, but honestly, if you were to tap him on the shoulder, what club would take him?
Perth.
I don't.
Mate,
it's still a couple of years away.
You're right. But yeah, I think other clubs would actually, maybe not he may not go as a marquee halfback, but I think other clubs would look at him potentially as there's been talk of him going to lock, which I thought was crazy talk a year or two ago, but now I wouldn't say he's definitely not $1 million lock, for example. He's not a fullback, but if he's obviously, he can play. But I suppose he'd have to change his body type. He'd have to change his whole structure to be able to do that, because he runs the ball differently now, especially since his injuries. You look at footage of him from 2022, even early last year, even that Roosters game last year, he was taking the line on, he was running. And now I'm not sure what it is, but that kind of back into the line kind of thing that he does, the only way I could think that has occurred is due injury or some kind of mental thing or both. So I don't know. There's a footballer in there. He was a very good footballer a few years ago. I think other clubs would take an experiment with him.
I think he has to play in the halves, though. Given the league's got such a shortage of halves, I think he'd look good in a team where it was his team, and maybe playing with a young half coming up from New South Wales Cup or something like that, where he can take ownership of the team and direct and run the halves. Whether there's a bit of a, I don't know, not confusion, but more so like, who wants to take the reins, like we see with him and Trindle.
There's friction there.
It's a bit of a conundrum.
You had something you wanted to say, CK?
Oh, I think Franko was sort of touching on Williams, though. He's locked up, so even if another club wants to take him, it's going to cost us, going to pay him more than $500,000 to go somewhere else. And then if you
What's his name? Lee Hadjipentelis was talking on SEN this morning, and he was saying hypothetically, not talking about this, but other contracts, if it's broken by one party, then we have to pay it. If we're the ones doing the tapping, and see you later. If he turns around and goes, look, it's not working, and I need to restart to try and save my career, and backs out himself, then it's a mutual agreement. The contract's null and void, and see you later. Kind of like the Lockie Galvin situation.
Yeah, but
I guess
it's not going to take a $500,000 pay cut to go somewhere else.
I think the only way for him to go is if Perth, for example, said we need a marquee, he's the face, and we're offering him 1.2. Yeah, that's the only way it can happen.
I think there's two things to consider here, sort of something that spins off from what Lat's mentioned as well. If he was at another club playing the way he is with the contract that he's on, and there were whispers that the contract was being discussed about being null and void, would we as Sharks fans want him to come to the Sharks? Would we be excited to go, oh, let's go chase him, let's get him to the Sharks, that'd be a great addition to the club? And then the second thing to consider is, and obviously circumstances are different in every scenario, but everyone was a little bit upset when they realised that we could have had Metcalf, but we've got Hines instead. Now, it's not apples for apples, and that isn't exact same. That is not the swap that we would have had. But we're now talking about, we do have a couple of young, good playmakers coming up, and with the length of contract that Hines is on, does he, and Trindle, to be fair, become a bit of a blocker for those getting an opportunity at the Sharks? Are they the kind of player that's willing to wait? Or are we going to maybe lose another couple of promising young halves because of Hines Trindle combo? And is that something we'd want or be willing to put up with? So yeah, there's a lot of thought there on how and where the team could be reconfigured. The Hines to lock could be an option as well, right? I think that's probably the next best opportunity for Hines if it's not in the halves. But Williams certainly nailed it in saying there's a very good footballer in there. We know he's got the talent. Just love to see it a bit more often. Okay, we've got Chris saying, do we make the 8 in this current form? I think we do make the 8. Williams, you put a line through us after the Roosters match. Is that line still through us?
Yep.
We're done.
Well, yeah. I'm sitting the fence. We are every chance of not making the 8 the way this team's performing. And I suppose I'll put the line through it after the Roosters game, because after the Storm game, maybe I got a bit too excited, but I was like, this team started to learn. The silly mistakes are going away, starting to mature. Let's go. And we just see silly mistake after fade out, after brain fart, just continuing on. And sure, we might get a performance or 2 or 3 or 4 together. We won a few games in a row about a month ago, and then there's every chance of it falling back down again. So yeah, I don't know. I think and then injuries too. Look, we've been unlucky so far this year. We've been lucky in some other ways. We haven't had an injury to the halves yet. Touch wood. We haven't had an injury to the fullback yet. We haven't had an injury to the hooker. If that occurs, then might open the door for a young up and comer to get some game time, hopefully. But we see how Fitz works in this regard. And if we lose a half, it'll be Atkinson. If we lose another, it'll probably be, I don't know, Fitzy himself coming out of retirement and playing. Who knows?
SJD says he was giving it to you, Lats, for saying the Eels would make the 8.
Yes, fair enough. Yeah, I did say that.
I definitely was giving it to you for saying the Roosters, so you've got me on the hook for that one. Mark says, what about the penalty against Jesse Colquhoun for not being square? He was squarer than a chessboard.
That was ridiculous.
Dev Era backs that up, saying, I remember that penalty. It was so rubbish. The ref just followed the crowd in that situation because they yelled up through that it must be correct. So didn't like that one.
It was a metre back. A metre back, front on to the player playing the ball. That was I saw that live and I was blowing up. That was a terrible call. That, not to mention the Ronnie knock on. That was not a knock on.
I know William Stupon was saying it, but I just don't drop the ball in that situation to begin with.
Yeah, I know, 100%. But try and catch it on the first.
It was left to
down.
bounce.
Don't let it bounce. Every time we've let it bounce,
But that was an unforced error. That was yeah. I could see how you could call it a knockback. Just don't put the referee in that position to begin with. And we'd lost our challenge as well. So
Yeah.
We completed 55%.
yeah, that'll do it. 50 far out. Yeah.
All right. Stuart Campbell says, if we're in as much of a problem with the cap as it seems we are, surely we're moving on Ramian, Ueli, and someone else to other club or Perth. Isa needs to take Kennedy's spot round 1. Yeah, I mean, we don't know how Ison recovers from an ACL. We don't know about fitness. That round 1 might be a bit of a stretch. Ueli is a bit of a rich contract, but he is performing well. I thought he did well against the Broncos. Him and Rudolph did quite well off the bench there. That said, Perth is still a little whiles away. We don't get them off our books next year. If they're going to Perth, we've got to wait another year. So that's not going to solve our problems for next year. Dev Era says, well, we just bought Fitzy's son to come play halfback at the Dogs in SG ball. Did we now? We being the Dogs did, or?
Correct. We being the Dogs.
Okay. So, all right. I don't know if he's good or not, but there we go. They're there. And then Paul says, if we don't tap some players, who in the lower grades would want to hang around not knowing they're not going to get a game? Exactly, Paul. I'm in that camp a little bit. We all know I do enjoy watching the juniors, and it's always nice to see a young kid get their debut. They've got to earn it, of course, but if their pathways are blocked, then where do they go? I think we certainly saw, in a rare occurrence there, Trindle stuck around longer than maybe what anyone thought he would stick around. He was very patient there, but most young kids coming through won't be as patient, as we saw with Metcalf, who, as much as everyone complained about the fact that we lost him, I think we did offer him a contract, and he just saw that he had people in front of him, so he said, no, I'm going to go where there's an opportunity. And that might be the same scenario for some of these young kids coming through. Especially, as CK said, we've got a lot of 80-minute players, so if you're a good young back rower, getting some game time is going to be tough. All right, well, enough of this mess. Lats has some socials for us. You wanna hit us with the socials, Lats?
Yeah, mate, let's do it. A lot of it we've already covered, but look, they're coming from everywhere for Fitzy across the socials, guys, and it's predominantly around the Atkinson bench situation. As we alluded to earlier, the heat's right back on Nico also, and his inability to manage games at the moment. Look, you got Buzz Rothfield wanting Nico to fullback, Atkinson in the halves this week. Doesn't make a great deal of sense to me. Is that?
Have another drink, Buzz. Far out.
Look, it doesn't make a great deal of sense to me because, one, Atkinson's leaving at the end of the year, so it's not going to solve a long-term problem. The only way I can see Nico to fullback happening is if we make a play for Toby Sexton or someone like that. And we still keep Nico in the spine on the big dollars. Look, fans, they want Talakai back on the bench for impact purposes, and they want Chris Va'ia in at centre. It's only lit up again this afternoon after this week's team list drop. Fitzy was fuming in the press conference at our lack of discipline, and as Matty mentioned earlier, it's not only in negative play, but like backing our defence and sticking to our processes. He stated something really need to get right quickly. I did notice Va'ia and the Puru brothers on the extended bench, so don't be surprised to see a late shuffle prior to kickoff. We know Fitzy's he can do that at times. It's crazy to think though that you can keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. And if Fitzy, if he continues to do it, he's just going to lose the support of the supporters. The supporter confidence is going to go down. So look, there's a lot going on there in the socials, but predominantly aimed at Fitzy, and is he the right guy to do the job?
Lats, how did you get that photo of a cranky Fitz? You got a telescopic lens there, something on the roof of Shark Park?
Mate,
Man,
I had an insider in the sheds. I had an insider.
I've never seen Fitzy so cranky.
It's amazing what they can do with AI these days, mate.
I'm more impressed with the Atkinson photo.
Thought you'd like that one, mate. Oh, look. In a top-of-the-table clash, our Jersey Flag squad was humbled by a strong Melbourne outfit going down to the Storm 42 points to 18 at Seabrook Reserve Broadmeadows over the weekend. Look, the boys went into the break 14-0 down before posting a couple of quick early second-half tries to bring the margin back to 2, with the Storm breaking away and kicking on for the remainder of the match. The lost sees the boys drop to 3rd on the ladder, and they go on to play the 12th place Rabbitohs at Coogee Oval at 1 p.m. this Sunday. The Newtown Jets scored a gritty come-from-behind win over Boldo's North Sydney Bears over the weekend, being a man down for the entire second half after Chris Vaiea was harshly sent off in the 37th minute and going into the sheds down 12-10 at half-time. The Jets rallied and kicked ahead, winning 24 points to 12. Tries to Eli Clark, Eparama Navale, fleet captain Samuel McCulloch, who was playing up a grade, Christian Dixon and Taj Ford, with Puru kicking 2 of 5. The boys now sit 4th on the Knock-On Effect New South Wales Cup ladder and go on to play the 12th place Bunnies at Coogee Oval at 3 p.m. on Sunday.
Well done, lads.
Alrighty. Sharks NRLW captain Tiana Penatani-Gray has put pen to paper, inking a fresh new 2-year deal through the week that sees Tiana remain at the club through to the end of the 2027 season. It's a huge boost for the club with the season opener just around the corner. Coach Tony Herman, when asked, stated it's a proud day for the club to re-sign a player of Tiana's standing. She's an elite talent and a natural-born leader with her unrelenting competitiveness, meticulous preparation and football IQ galvanising the players around her. Tiana has helped build our NRLW program from the ground up, and it's fitting that she keeps blazing the trail as we look to use last year's success as a launchpad. It's great to see Tiana sticking around, boys. She's a huge talent, not only for our club, the Blues and the Gillaroos as well. She was pivotal in that Blues winning the Shield this year, and it's great for our club.
She's absolutely the gun face of the NRLW in the Sharks
100%.
world, I believe. Also,
Yep.
bonus
Right.
points that
From centre to 5'8" too, like unbelievable.
Yeah.
bonus points that she's
Awesome
now
ability.
got a bit of a gig with Fox Sports as well. So always love when a Sharks representative gets a bit of a voice on one of the broadcast networks. So well done.
Yep. And the very handsome captain Cam McInnes has been nominated for this year's Ken Stevens Medal in recognition of the great work that he does off the field in the community. Make sure you head to nrl.com and vote for the captain to take out this year's medal.
Very good. Thank you, lads.
No worries.
Okay. Well,
Should we even show the team list? We know what it is. Let's go
Yeah.
start the Storm team.
yeah.
Just put that picture of Atkinson back up.
So that's
Yeah.
where we'll move on. We all know what it is.
Is this where we ask, we do a bolt
Well,
on and
all
say,
right.
who's Cameron Munster? We've never heard of him.
Okay. Well, here we
Who's
go.
Jerome
Fine.
Hughes and Grant
You've
Henderson?
asked for it, Williams. I'm going to take us on for a bit of a detour and a bit of show
Oh,
and
here we
tell. CK, you were a big pop collector at one point, and I've been happy to dabble in some figures of characters that I like. Now, I've never seen an episode of Street Sharks. However, I did come across this, and I thought I had to grab it. So I don't think I've ever opened a pop figure before, but here we go. I'm going to open it.
Oh,
Gonna open
no!
it. Sorry. Gonna open it.
I have bought doubles before just to open. So
The
So I've
value's
opened
gone.
him. This is, I've just lost all value of this character. He's no longer worth anything on the secondary market. Pull him out. All right, here we go. What's his name? Ripster. Reefy, eat your heart out, buddy. There's Ripster. He's
mad.
looking pretty cool. I'm gonna find a spot for him on a shelf back here somewhere. Where can we see him? He can go
probably
next to
He
the
looks a
other
bit-
Sharkies.
He looks more
I'll
friendly
try.
than MC Hammerhead. I still
He
haven't
does,
seen a
doesn't
more
he?
fearsome shark than MC Hammerhead.
I'll try and find a better spot for him somewhere a little bit on his own and out there. But thought that would be a nice little Sharks addition to the shelves. I don't have a lot of merch stuff up there.
I'm just going to hijack your merch section and your show and tell because I got one piece today and I was hoping the creator was going to be on the show because I hope he's still watching. He's going to die of absolute jealousy. Like, this is going to trump anything he's ever got. And he's going to
The
die.
helmet.
Hey,
The helmet.
He's got it.
look at that.
I saw it in
Put
the
it on.
background. I was like, I didn't know you got one.
How good
How
is
good.
it?
That's
For
epic.
audio only listeners, CK is holding up the NFL Sharkies helmet, full size one too, not one of those little dicky ones. Oh, Fitz.
Good.
Is
Suck that, Boldo.
He's got a Bears
that
helmet.
is brilliant. I love it, CK.
Oh,
Well
now
done.
we lost
Oh, and
the-
we've
now we
lost
lost his
him because
picture.
of it. It was too much love, too much awesomeness
He's just been
for this
punted.
stream to handle. So yeah, so I've got
Yeah,
my
he's
little
back.
Sharky dude there. I did feel like throwing it out after the Sharks lost to the Broncos. I was like, oh, I bought this little Sharky thing and don't know why I've done that, but anyway, there we go. Okay, so
He just come through and sent me a text that I want my helmet. He was trying to call me midstream. He said, I want my helmet. Well, I won, buddy. I got it. I got the helmet.
yeah,
I was
boys.
hoping he's going to be on tonight because as we would have started the stream, I was going to put it on and set it on there and just start the stream with the helmet and just distract from any intro you would have had.
That would have been brilliant,
Love it.
but he's banned. He's banned. He's out of here. All right. Well, I think that's that's enough of a detour. We've got to get on. We've got to do what we don't really want to do because we all know what we're going to see. In a full 7-day turnaround, the Sharks take on the Melbourne Storm down at Amy Park. Last start victors. It's going to be different mission this time around. This preview is brought to you by Miranda Hotel. No better place to watch the Sharkies than in their new beer garden with their supersized screen and maybe cheap drinks, assuming you don't mention Boldo. CK, come on, buddy. Take us through the lists.
Well, the list is exactly the same for audio and any other viewers want to stick around. It's the same list, so we won't go through it too much. No changes from the last 17. It looks like Kafusi's going to start, but we're hoping Fitzy makes a last couple of changes. I know the boys from Shark Cage have invited all the podcasters down there at the same time, and anyone that's traveling to Melbourne. It's not the Pink Pony Club, but it's called the Pink Lemonade. So if anyone's heading down to Melbourne, that's the meet and greet spot for all the Sharks fans, is the Pink Lemonade. So get down there. I think their creator, Boldo himself's going down as well to make the trip. So look out for that idiot. And also any other part of people, Sharks fans, you want to meet and greet down there and get together and join up and push us to the #1 spot.
I believe it's in Richmond, so not far from Amy Park.
Yeah, it's in Richmond. So I'm sure you wouldn't miss a place called Pink Lemonade. So
Boldo loves a pink lemonade. So
yeah, under 17 guys, we pretty much spent an hour talking about it. No changes have been made at this stage. So with those guys on the extended bench, maybe something happens, but we'll just have to watch this space and see.
I can read out the extended bench if you like, Franko and Kelly, and that's just for Billy Burns, However Peru, Nephi Peru, Chris Vaiella, and Jaden Beryl. So there's a few potentials there that and like to have. So the fan base is kind of pushing for there. So you never know, but I can't see a debut happening in Melbourne against Melbourne for Vaiella. I think that'd be a bridge too far. But
they played South last week and also got pushed to Golden Point and they had a few players backing up in Munster and Harry Grant, who are going to play this week down in Melbourne. I'll go through the Melbourne Storm team then. So it's Ryan Pappenhausen at 1, Farlago, Anderson, Nick Meating, Xavier Coates, Cameron Munster, Jerome Hughes, Utica Manu, Harry Grant, Josh King, Sean Bloor, Eli Katoa, Trent Liero. And you got Tyrone Wishart, Alec McDonald, Meteor, and Big Solomona rounding out the team with Craig Bill. I can't not say that whether he's Meteor. So every time someone announces his name, I think of the song. So they obviously went to Golden Point last week up in Sydney against South, who come back against them. Alex Johnson scored 4 tries in that match, who nearly cut down Ken Irvine's record. With Ryan Pappenhausen slot the field goal and a couple of block down chances, they iced the game. Obviously, Bellamy was very happy to win in Golden Point. Not. Again, a strong Storm team. We absolutely love travelling to Melbourne, and I'll get Williams to talk on our record then, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess first of all, very important question, CK. I'm asking for a friend whose name is Boldo. And he wants to know who's Grant Anderson.
Yeah, I believe he scored the first try against us last week, and he's actually going to he's going to the Broncos next year. Interestingly enough,
Rightio, there you go.
I'll talk on that a little bit later, but yeah, Grant Anderson, quite a handy player Me and Lats love trucking him in a bit of an anytime in a multi there, gamble responsibly. Yeah,
Fair
quite a
enough.
handy getter.
All right, Williams. We beat the Storm once already. What are the chances of beating them again? How often does that happen?
Thank you for the preloaded question before, and I was able to do the research very quickly. We've done it 3 times in our history. So 2005 we did. We beat them at home. At the old Olympic Park early in the year, 30 points to 10. And then later in the year we won. We put 40 on them. Bo Scott scored his first try in the NRL. David Kidwell copped a sin binning. I think it was the world's longest first half from my vague memory there. I think there was a bad injury and the Kid Wilson bidding and a million times offs in the week. We won 40 odd points to 16 there. So that was 05. The next one, 2016, we know what happened there. We beat them Easter weekend. That was the Curtis Scott broken leg and the Chad Townsend dab. Followed by the big one on the 2nd of October. And then 2018 was the Cameron Smith and Luke Lewis sin bin game with Edric Lee with the sole try, that one. And then later in the year, winning in Melbourne, I think it was Fecky with a ripper of a try from I can't remember who threw the offload. There was suspect forward pass. I think a Chad Townsend field goal, and there was a bit of a funny score, like 21-18 or something like that. We won there. So it has been done. And we did win in the regular season down there last year. We've only won 3 times at Amy Park. There's been 16 games total. So the Storm have won the other 13. Whilst games in Melbourne, Melbourne Storm home matches, they win 19 points to 7. We've played at 4 different venues down there. We played the Olympic Park, Marvel, Etihad, whatever you want to call it, the MCG on one occasion, and at Amy Park. Overall, though, it's the Sharks 18, Melbourne Storm 30, no draws. And the overall points tally is 812 to the Sharks to 1,112 to the Storm. So, not a good record. And obviously we're last start winners, but this season with the win over the Storm at Shark Park a few weeks ago, but last start at Amy Park losers, courtesy of that first week finals match last year.
Yeah, okay. All right. So no changes to the teams. Lats, that doesn't surprise anyone, does it? We were pretty much calling there to be no changes before the game, before the last game even finished, right?
I think there'll be a change. I think Fitzy will listen to this show and see the overwhelming support for another forward on the bench, and he'll make a late change.
All right. He does make
Sharks
a late
$3.
change.
Sharks $3.43. Gamble responsibly. And sorry, Kelly and I were just laughing at a comment that may have come through the things. I'll leave that to Franko to put up.
I've got it spelled out here.
So you think there's going to be changes, Lats? What are those changes going to be, mate? What do you put your money on?
I think Hohepa comes back into the team, mate. Atkinson out.
Hohepa back in. Okay. All right. CK Williams, do we back that change? Do we think there's something else in the wings?
I think you'd see a Vayella more likely to come into the centres, the debut, Talakai back to the bench, Atkinson out, and maybe another forward tweak, depending what he wants to go with.
Burns in if Teague still having issues with his eye. But that's an unknown quantity there. We will.
But you look at the Storm on their bench. They've got a replacement utility / half / hooker, and then 2 absolute monsters in Tui and Nas, who just come on the bench, off the bench, and just are huge. Like, this is the game we need 4 forwards. It has to be.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going with no changes. We went with Atkinson against Melbourne a couple of weeks ago. I don't see anything that would change Fitzy's mentality there, except for fan outcry. But if he was brave enough to put Atkinson in against Melbourne 3 weeks ago, then he's probably going to do it same again. So I don't foresee any changes. All right. CK, what did we do against them last time to win, and can we replicate it, or are they going to be ready for us?
God, it's kind of hard because we lost Ramian and KL in that game as well. So it was kind of hard to say what we can improve on, because we had Talakai and Atkinson go out in the centres, and the soft hands of Talakai was the difference. We were smart enough that Ronaldo was getting in the heads of the Storm's players and swapped over to the opposite side to take on Xavier Coates. So Atkinson wasn't getting crawled over for Xavier Coates' highlight. So hard to say. They hate coming to Sharks, but God, we hate going down there. As most teams go down there, I just think a 30-point Storm win to most teams that go down there are going to get absolutely hammered when they go down to Melbourne, or they try and squeak out some sort of cheeky win like we did last season with Atkinson and Brayley playing in the halves. So, they're just a well-oiled rolling machine, and they're back to fully fit. So it's a bit scary at this point.
Oh, Franco's
Lost you, Franco. Are you on
He's
mute, mate?
muted.
Muted himself.
Muted.
I am on mute because I didn't want you to hear me drinking my nice, cool Pepsi.
Oh,
Pepsi, if
You
you want to send
sponsor
me a
the
free
show.
case, I'll be ready for it.
Sponsoring the 1999 Sharks up.
Yeah, exactly. That's back where I'm living. Jeez, Sharks was fun back then. Matt says it's like Flano carrying Beale on the bench in 2016, but without 15 wins in a row. Harley thinks the Sharks are going to win 24-12. SJD is asking me to put the little shark on the shelf with all the potato and gravies. If I was to do that, he'd be living in the fridge, and so that wouldn't be cool. Or would it be too cool? I don't know. 2.0 is saying that he doesn't know why, but he thinks the Sharks will win 22-20. So a bit of a heart stopper prediction there from 2.0.
Atkinson with the sideline conversion to win it.
That would be pretty good.
What?
Aldo wants a reminder on who
Carney out
Grant
of
Anderson
nowhere.
is. We've done that. What was that? Sorry, lads.
Todd Carney out of nowhere.
Todd Carney out of nowhere. Matt says poor opposition goal kicking saved Munster twice in 3 days. Yeah, correct. All right. Stuart Campbell is warning Boldo to not eat a beef Wellington. Guessing they're no good at the pink lemonade. Or is there something else there that I am not aware of?
Well, have a look at news.com. Scroll past the Iran-Israel war stuff, and you might see something about some death cap mushrooms, and a court case has been going for 8 weeks.
Of course.
It's riveting stuff. That's the news that I follow.
Me and Lats went other than a pink lemonade and beef Wellington.
Paul is praying that Vayela gets to start at centre with Sift at a prop and Kafusi to the bench. Not a bad shake up there, Paul. Yep. I assume
Toby
you
prop the way he played the other day.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that as well.
Have the impact of Kafusi coming off the bench.
2.0 says we lost the GOAT last time against them. Hopefully Atkinson gets lost at baggage handling. Yeah.
We know someone that might be able to do something about that.
Atkinson.
I think he's in Fitzy's carry-on, mate.
Let's do your black magic at the airport, mate, and sort it out.
Wrong terminal.
I'll see what I can do. I'll talk to the boys over at Domestic.
Are there any danger players we should be watching out for, Williams? We know that the Storms are pretty. We know the Storms are a pretty good team across the park.
All of the Storms players you have to watch out for. They are
all of the Storms players.
All of them. And they were looking red hot in the first. I watched the game against South the other night. They were looking red hot in the first 20 minutes, and then South worked their way back in. The way it started, I thought Jesus would be stormed by 50 or 60. Obviously, players come back from injury. It was in the wet. So, yeah, I don't know. If you get them on an off night, which I think we did when we stood up to them, we might be able to challenge them. But if you give them any room or we play like we did in the second half, it will be a cricket score like it was 2 years ago down there when we were all losing our minds when we lost by 50. I'll just put my tip in now. I'll say that we'll improve and we'll go down by 10.
Down by 10. Okay, very good. 2.0 says Coates against Katoa scares him to bits. Pretty scary, but probably not as bad as Hiroti on one leg. So we'll see how that pans out. All right, Lats, what's your prediction then for this match?
Mate, I'm concerned that Ryan Pappenhausen might bet Ken Irvine's record this week. No, look, I don't know why, but I am feeling a Sharks win. I think we will win 19 points to 12, and I think Atkinson will kick the field goal.
Whew.
Okay. All right. Very good. An Atkinson field goal. So he's in the team for your mind. CK, how are we going, mate? What's happening?
Yeah, I'm going to be the boulder in the room. We're going to get smoked, and this is the breaking point in our season where players are going to get questioned of who's going to play next week. I have talked about how we've travelled way too much this season. We all knew that going into it, and we're going to have still 2 buys and a really cruisy home back end at home. I think we've got about 6 home games to come still, but I think this is the one that's really going to break us down, and I think we're going to lose by about 30.
Oh, a big drubbing.
Yeah.
So no Sharks in the multi this week, you're saying?
Yeah, we're going all Storms, mate.
Melbourne heavy. All right.
Melbourne heavy.
What are you going,
Jeez.
Franko?
SJD says SJD says he hopes Coates wastes all his energy swapping wing positions again all game. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I enjoyed watching that last time round.
He just had a week off. Had a rest.
He's rested. Look, I was Lats built me up. I was ready to go. I think Sharks can win, but then CK just knocked the wind out of me, and now I'm worried. I think we're going to get belted. Look, I think
Believe,
this is going to
believe.
I think this is going to be a false dawn. I think we're going to win this one. It'll be close, probably win by 4. But what that means is there'll probably be no changes to the team. It'll be same old for the next month and a half, and we're probably going to lose 3 or 4 of the next 5 games.
The old Dragons Anthony Griffin contract extension when they're made premiers.
We'll lose the Tigers, Dragons, Gold Coast, Parramatta.
Exactly. I think this will be how good are we? We're all world beaters again, and then it'll just be the dead cat bounce, and we'll be in trouble. Storm win 40-8, unfortunately, says Kevin Coyle. So Kale, sorry. Yeah, all right. Well, CK, you have for us an around the grounds, I believe.
Yeah, apologies last week.
Around the league.
This one's gone a bit extended, so apologies. I didn't think we'd smash ourselves this much for this long, but we're going to get into
it.
All good.
Geez, admin lady, you stitched me up here. As you can see from the NRL, the NRL ladder, the top 4 have separated themselves from the next 4 in the top 8, and then it drubs down from the Broncos somehow climbed to 5th on 18 points, and it goes all the way down to about 15 points of difference to the Cowboys, as Franko screen on me. West Tigers 14, Eels 14, Rabbitohs 14, and Titans 12, which means the Titans only have to string a couple of wins together, and the other teams have to sort of fall in a heap, and they're in the 8 all of a sudden. So you can see the slides starting to come in certain teams if results don't go their way. And like I said earlier, if the Roosters scored an extra try, they actually would have jumped us on the ladder there and would have pushed us down to 7. But the Panthers, we've gone from dead set last to 1 point behind us on 8. So there are a few buys to come, but the sneaky one of the Raiders as well, they're on they're on second on 26 points, and they still have 2 buys to come and a bit of a soft draw down there in Canberra. So watch out for them. On the back of New South Wales and Lomax missing 1,000 goals, losing down in Perth over on the week in Origin that we can skip over. The New South Wales girls pumped us up at the under-19s, winning 26-10 over Queensland, with the show's favourite girl, Ray, getting player of the match. She was the captain and halfback and had a whale of a game. But then the boys went down in 23-22 against Queensland with a field goal, the difference in the 34th minute. So it actually wasn't at the end of the game. It was actually in the 34th minute, nice and early. It was a field goal was the difference. Queensland went on to win that and hold on 23-22. In injury news, Jack Stingray Bostock, unfortunately, that's one of our favourites for our multis, has done his ACL and he's out for the rest of the season. The other one is Fletcher Sharp at the Knights, who absolutely busted his inside and he's lacerated his spleen and kidney and is out for the season. So he has some horrible internal injuries over there in the same game. They were playing in Perth and he stayed over in hospital. So he is out for the season in a massive injury blow for both those teams. In team news, a lot of changes coming back through. You got Cody Walker back for the Rabbitohs, Dylan Brown back in for the Eels, and Latz's favourite for the Warriors is back out of his own hole in Kurt Capewell.
Glorious.
The Warriors
Glorious.
to fill a gap. A few other changes in there with Jareen Buller out for a month for the West Tigers. You've also got Tommy Turbo changing back to centre from fullback. And like I mentioned before with the Dogs, they've actually got Kurt Mann and the young fellow, what's his name, gotten tired now. From the West Tigers, Lockie Galvin on 17 on the bench. So a lot of chops and changes going on in teams at the moment, and teams trying to figure out. Did you hear that? We're actually making team changes around the league. You can do it.
It's possible.
It's very possible. And Matthew, I talked about it the other week about Sel and Cobbo playing reserve grade. He obviously didn't play against us on the weekend. Stories going around, there's only about $300,000 left of the salary cap at the Broncos, with Jordan Caparani signing an extension today. And also, like I mentioned before, Boldo's favourite player, Grant Anderson, heading to the Broncos next season. It seems that Cobbo can't find his way back into Madge Maguire's team. They're trying to find an outlet. He actually toured the Dragons last week down in Sydney. Flano trying to get him there, but they wanted him before June 30 to finish out the season because they were told Terrell Sloan he's allowed to move on, and Flano's not happy with his team except for Flano Jr. He won't put Ilias back into the team, but the Dragons. But out of nowhere, in the 7th hour, the Cowboys have popped up and offered Cobbo a contract as well, but the Broncos still won't let him go before that June 30 deadline in case injuries do occur, and they have a bit of a backup option. So the Cobbo marriage looks like it's over in Brisbane, but where he's going to go to next, nobody knows.
Gee, you'd want to have a nibble at 300K, right?
No, that's all they have left in the cap, and he only wants about 600. So he's actually going quite low at the market price. So it's quite young, but like I said, he still looked a bit slowish in reserve grade as well. So a bit of danger around there, I think. In social media news, I just happened to see this come up today. The Fanatics had a big fan fest in the last couple of days with superstars from NBA, NFL, and of course the WWE, and our very own Rhea Ripley, who's an Australian wrestler, one of the biggest stars in the WWE. A fan there had a mummy, which is her nickname in WWE. Vegemite made up for her to sign, and lo and behold, he's wearing a Sharks jersey. So this went right around the world. It was pretty cool. Mummy signed it. She was pretty impressed. So I jumped on the socials and said, oh, my God, this is everything. How good's this? And Fanatics actually wrote back and said, not as good as 2016, and I had to agree. So I said it was a close second. So we're getting the Sharks jersey out in the USA again and getting a bit famous out there. Going a bit viral, this one.
Yeah, good.
Very nice.
Mummy's always on top. And then, of course, it's Beans for Brain Cancer Week this week. The Mark Hughes Foundation kicking off its Beanie for Brain Cancer this week. You can buy yours from Lowe's this week online and also Woolworths. I guarantee they'll be selling at the grounds. Everyone get around and buy these. They always are great beanies for a great cause. They've kicked off the massive walk they do from Sydney to Newcastle this week with Sharks fan and tragic and sometimes a temp board member, Glenn Gorick, already started his walk from Cronulla this morning, heading towards Newcastle. So it's a 200-kilometre walk, but everyone get behind this. It seems the league gets really behind this. Mark Hughes has pushed this really well. Great time to have it, especially given it's about 5 degrees at the moment in Sydney and Wollongong, and you've got a couple of different colours there. And I've seen they brought out some scarves this year as well to mix it up. So add those to your collection and try and get some money into their coffers.
Beautiful. Mate,
Franko.
just going back to, and I mentioned in my socials, I hear the Dogs are shopping Sexton around. Would you boys entertain the idea of playing Nico at fullback and signing Toby Sexton? Because I couldn't imagine him going for too much.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to pass for me. The Nico fullback chat for me, I've been telling everyone that wants to bring it up to me, is he played about 8 games for the Storms in 2020, so 5 years ago. And I don't see him as a fitter player than he was 5 years ago to cover that fullback position, run those kind of kilometres, get across the field and make those defensive stops. So that was probably his biggest lapse, is Hines, the fullback, is probably his defensive in the front line. And you want him playing fullback and covering players. To me, it just screams a bit more danger.
Yeah,
Sexton.
TV there asked the question about, do you drop Hines to fullback? We definitely covered that earlier on, and I think you've just hit it again there. CK, no, it's not going to work.
Sexton as well. I'm not sure he's solid. He's doing a decent job with the Dogs, but I don't know if he'd add much here, especially with with Taj Ford and Riley Pollard. I know they're quite a while away, but how long would he sign for? I think Sexton would be looking for a decently lengthed contract, and he's young himself. Don't think so.
He's also going from a starting half position. Would he want to go from that to a benchy or a reserve grader again? I think he's going to probably want to look for somewhere where he's getting minutes on the field. I think that's a bit of a no for me.
Still some good players running around reserve grade playing halves. Not that we're talking about replacing their halves, but like Lockley and Ilias, like I mentioned, at the Dragons, getting the start, and they've won 8 in a row down there. And Flano still won't get him back in the team. You mentioned Toby Sexton's probably getting pushed on to somewhere else. And then the Warriors, I was saying, I can't remember who the player was. He used to be played for the Gold Coast and some of the Warriors, but he played reserve grade on the weekend, still at the Warriors as the backup over there. If anyone can try and remember who he was.
I know who you're talking about, and it's right on the tip of my tongue. But it was a solid player as well.
And he played very solid on the weekend because I got to catch the reserve grade game down there. So, there's a few other options there, but we're not. I think ours, like Franko said, with the contracts we've got with Hines and Trindle, they're kind of locked down for the next 3 to 5 years.
All right. We are going to give the audience a couple of minutes to come up with a fun fact between themselves. If they don't, Lats is going to have to give us a fun fact. I'm not sure if this one last counts. Week. You're going to have to do it again, mate. You're the quickest thinker out of all of us. So SJD came out with this. I don't think it works as a fun fact, even though he's trying to claim it. He says, I think we will win if we score more points and lose if they score more points. Quite possibly true. Not entirely sure, but my
fun fact is I quoted when I was talking it earlier. It was a bit obscure, but I was talking about, there's the guys that be hurting there, quoting Ricky Stewart. Then I said 67 texters. The quote that he made when he was complaining about the NRL referees in the press conference was 47 texters. I've got 47 texters about how terrible the refereeing was. So the number was 47. Sorry, not 67. There's my fun fact.
Your memory's awful, Williams. You don't remember anything.
Yeah.
Chris Kelly,
sorry,
I think that... I think that player was Tanner Boyd you were thinking of.
That's it.
Yes, Tanner Boyd.
He had a whale of a game. Strawberry blonde fella, did really well. So the Warriors commentators were talking him up that we still see you. But they probably won't lose depth if they want to give someone up.
Yep. Will the Younger says he feels like the Storm might give their Tigers game a run. The second half last week showed some major issues.
They're not perfect. They're probably the weakest premiership favourite in a long time.
Yeah, they've been far from it.
Stuart Campbell says, I think we're going to have another bad loss and the pressures will start to build on Fitzy to make changes. SJD says it's CK's bedtime. Not half wrong.
4:30 and doing this late at night.
Boldo comes in. He says, Mammy sucks. Alexa Bliss all the way.
That guy got more Shark jersey airtime than Boldo ever did the wrestling.
Also doesn't have an NFL Sharks helmet.
Burn.
Matt says maybe Fitzy is told to pick the same team to take the focus off the league's club.
Go. Chain it up.
Yeah. Make sure.
Should be lurking outside your window.
Yeah, if Boldo's got a spare key, mate, make sure you take it off him because that might not last.
I think Boldo's key's in the bowl.
Lots
SJT
been
says he'd be
changed.
looking at Volkman since the Eels aren't using him.
Yeah,
There were talks of him signing too at one point.
Yeah.
He was supposed to go to St George Illawarra with Flano down there. He failed his medical, and then that fell apart. And he went back to the Warriors. Then the Eels picked him up. So I don't know. There seems like there's a few issues going on with that fella because I quite like the upset halves against the Titans on the weekend. So he's got a few players in front of him at the moment.
Do you boys think Niwai Peru gets a game eventually? Do you think he's NRL grade standard?
It's hard enough to get his brother into the team, mate, at this stage.
I'm not going to lie. When he picked that ball up and made that break, he did look like he was running in quicksand, Hohepa, for a minute there, didn't he? But he cleaned that ball up for us beautifully.
Would have been nice if he found Trindle, but Trindle's not much quicker. So, yeah, look, I don't think, I think Nifai's certainly improved year on year. There was one year where he sort of stalled for a little bit, but he's pretty good. He's carving it up now in New South Wales Cup. He's starting to act like he owns the joint, which is what you want to see. I just feel as though unless we get a few injuries, he's probably not first pick after one injury. We're going to need a couple of injuries for him to get a go. And if that doesn't happen in the next year and a half, he's probably going to get leapfrogged by someone. And that's going to be a bit of a shame. Fingers crossed in some manner that doesn't revolve around us getting a whole heap of injuries. I wouldn't mind seeing him get an opportunity. But I think it's going to be a tight squeeze for him at this stage.
Yeah, I thought he's best last year against Manly in that last round when we played at Brookvale. I thought most of our guys were going to get rested and he would have got a start, but don't know.
All right. Well, I think we're down on fun facts. Stuart Campbell's trying to say his fun fact is defense also win matches, not just attack. I don't know. Lats, you're gonna have to give us a fun fact, mate.
I've got a random little fun fact.
Good.
I remember my old man took me to a one of the grand final luncheons. No, Christy, I wasn't going to say to a gentleman's club. He took me to a grand final lunch. Oh, sorry, grand final breakfast, and we sat at the table with Troy Stone, which was awesome. He hadn't yet broken into the NRL or the ARL. But I remember Dad bought me this autograph book on the way down there, and I'll let you guys have a guess who the first autograph I got in my autograph book was.
So was this a Sharks NRL breakfast or the NRL?
It was a Sharks. It was a Sharks. Okay. Sharks grand final breakfast.
And what we're talking 90s?
Yeah, probably. Very early 90s.
Aaron Raper.
Maybe even earlier.
Oh, okay. Well, we're talking.
So we got Aaron Raper, CK.
If you got earlier,
Rogers for me.
Rogers, Franko.
It's got to be ET, right? Surely.
It was none other than Alan Fitzgibbon, the coach's dad, and he does know how to change a bench. Go and talk to your old man, Fitzy, because we need some changes here on the bench. But yeah, Alan Fitzgibbon was an absolute legend. I think Fitzy might have even been there. He was is with him as a little bloke.
He was ball boy. He was a ball boy.
So I still remember going up to him because I was just freaking out at the players. Like ET was there, and yeah, it was pretty awesome.
You went for the soft.
That's when we had a leagues club. Sorry, mate.
The soft touch. What's a leagues club?
Yeah, I know. Right? Yeah, so that's my little fun fact.
JD says
I've got a creepy fact I could share, but we'll keep some up your sleeves for later, mate. I'll keep that up my sleeve
for later.
It's a creepy shark. A creepy shark
stands for laughing at stuff. At needs to be capitalized for that to work, but yes. So, all right, are we still putting names in the hat? Has that been drawn? I don't know. Do we need a comment?
His piece of paper.
There was a lot of comments here. I think that we might need to mention on one of the next episodes who the winner is. What do you reckon, guys? and actually
Yeah,
go
we'll
through this properly.
over the next
Do it
episode
justice.
with the winner.
I'm going
All
for
right.
harsh call on me.
Yeah, which one you want? Glass about your hair.
Yeah.
I thought James Munro's one was pretty good. Puru played well, better drop him. We only reward mediocrity.
Actually, I will second that. That was a sizzling start.
Yeah.
That was he waiting for us when we got in.
Nailed it.
He was so keen to get that one in. It was there before we went live.
He's been waiting since Sunday.
You said it
All right,
by
well,
email.
James Munro is in. There it is. Peru played well. Better drop him. We only reward mediocrity. So I don't know when that draw is happening. I think it was supposed to be done for the second State of Origin. So maybe it's already been done. If it has, I apologize to you, James. But if it hasn't, you also have now got your hat in the ring.
Three more fun facts for you. One of them was Baldo saying that he ditched me last time we were in Melbourne for a post-match night out so he could watch the federal election. That is very true. That was 2010, back when the Storm were playing for 0 points. Baldo's still, I think, livid that a whole stack of us went to the AFL that day, went to some game at whatever it was called, Telstra Dome at the time, whilst he was watching the election coverage, and then went back to watch the election coverage afterwards. Delmo with some good facts. Fitzy went past old man Allen's record for most games coached to the Sharks on the weekend.
Very good. Missed that one.
Topically.
Awesome.
And Baldo just broke everyone's hopes and dreams by saying that comment comp is in fact over. It's a pretty short comment comp. Why isn't it still going?
And you announce a winner, or did you?
I think we might need the ICAC in on this
yeah.
on this competition.
There's no transparency.
Make up the rules as you go.
It's about as transparent as Fitzy's coaching policy.
Hang on, so we've got to put someone in last week, but it's over and it hasn't been drawn.
Yeah.
Someone's the idiot. I don't know if it's us 4 against 1. We'll see what happens. There will be an investigation.
It's got to be an investigation.
We know how you play games. We know how the rules get changed. It's fine. You just announce a winner.
Oh dear. Yeah. In other news, I can say that I've now been to the Sharks at Cronulla. It's a great venue, and they did a wonderful job. I wish it was under better circumstances, but all I can say is this is only a game. Hug the ones you guys love, and remember what's important in life. Sometimes there's a bit more important going on than the game of Sharks. That said, we'll build up bigger and better next week against the Storm. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We really do appreciate it. If you missed us live, comment below. If you want to see how the discussion went through the past game, join our Discord and be a part of the discussion through the week with all the fallout and everything else for future games. We'll have an opposition preview through the week. And Williams, do you have any Chronicles for us this week?
None. Sorry, I've been fat chat. I'll get them.
Dropping the ball.
Yeah, I've dropped the ball big time. It's kind of sailed off in the ether, the Chronicles, and I've heard no complaints so far. So get in the comments if you are missing them. I'm sure I'll get back to it one day.
Yep. All right. I'm sure there's plenty eager for that. Then, of course, we will have our debrief episode right on the tail of full time on Sunday night. I believe, you mentioned CK that Baldo is going to be out at the Pink Lemonade. I think he's going to take a little camera and a mic to do some pre-game predictions with some of the fans. So if you're down in Melbourne, you're going to the game, head out to this Pink Lemonade. You'll find Baldo, have a chat, have a bit of a yarn, and get on the camera. He might pop you up on Instagram or something.
It's not to be confused with the Blue Oyster.
Definitely don't go there. Anything left from everyone else before we end this one? No, we're all good. Time's called. Excellent, guys. Thanks.
I got a good idea for his debrief. I might see if we can push, instead of the pre-game, maybe a debrief live from some location.
Ooh, from the ground.
That would be
You might be able to
spicy.
get fans on the spot and rip it in. So
Sounds good.
top of my
Excellent. Well, we'll see what happens.
Get the 7-second delay ready.
Stay tuned because there's all sorts of shenanigans coming up. Brilliant. Very good. Thanks very much, everyone, for listening and coming along with us on this journey. It's been a wild ride. Have a great one. I don't know if it's up Cronulla, but let's go, boys. Let's see if we can do something better next round.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated. More often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast.